Hey, thank you so much for tuning in today. So today we're going to be talking about a subject that's one of my favorite subjects in the world, and that is summertime beach snook fishing. Summertime is the easiest time of the year to catch snook, and in my opinion, catching them from the beach and the surf is the funnest way to catch snook. Now you can also catch them on the pier, you can catch them on the jetties, but you know, on the pier, you're kind of elbow to elbow with a bunch of other people and you've got to drop a pier net 25 feet down. On the jetty, you know, you kind of got obstacles and the rocks and stuff like that. But fishing on the beach, it's just wide open. You've got plenty of room to let the fish run. You can use relatively light gear. You know, you can kind of loosen your drag up and just have fun fighting those fish. Now the best 3 months of the year to do this are June, July, and August, and snook season is closed during these 3 months, so everything's catch and release. But if you're really out to catch one of those big trophy snook, this is the time of the year to do it. Now about 2 years ago, I did a full tutorial on how to do exactly this technique. The video was called How to Catch Snook from the Beach in 3 Easy Steps. That video is really going to give you all the details you need to know from scratch on how to do this from start to finish in 3 easy steps. I'll also put that video up at the very end of this video, a link to that. So you're going to want to go and check that out. Now in this particular video, I'm going to be talking specifically on how to catch bait for this beach snook fishing technique. So the bait that you're primarily going to be wanting to use for beach fishing for snook is, number one is going to be the croaker. The croaker is pretty much considered the gold standard bait for snook. Another bait that you'll catch using this technique is a sand perch, or sometimes it's referred to as a mojarra. And there are also many other types of bait fish that you'll catch doing the same technique. So the best technique for catching croakers from the beach is with a cast net. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. Now, if you don't have a cast net or you don't know how to throw a cast net, you can also catch them on hook and line. And I did a tutorial on that specific technique as well. And I will link that video in the description and at the end of this video, so you're going to want to check that one out as well. All right, so let me show you what you're going to need if you're cast netting bait for snook. Number one, you're going to need a cast net. I'm going to show you that net in just a second. But you also need a bucket. And you also need a bait bubble box, and that will really help keep your bait alive. That'll save you a lot of headache just picking up one of these. All right, so my cast net is 8 feet tall. I'm right about 6'2", so you can tell, yep, this is about an 8-foot net. And that 8 feet refers to the radius, which is from the center to the very end. It's not feet around, it's height, so this is 8 feet. I really feel like an 8-foot net is perfect for this technique. It's not too big where if you hit a school of small bait fish like pilchards that you're just gonna get 1,000 bait fish in your net, and it's not too small that you're going to be missing a lot of bait fish. So my particular net, the brand name is called a Betts, and that particular model is called Old Salt. Now you can use any brand of cast net that you want. Really, a lot of different nets will work in this scenario. I got that one at Bass Pro. You can find them on Amazon or your local tackle shops. Now the one specific about a net that I will tell you is you have to pay attention to the mesh size. The net that I have has a 3/8 inch mesh. Now the reason this is important is if that mesh is too large, their heads will fit through the mesh and they'll get gilled and you will not be able to get your bait out of that net. I made a mistake one time. I bought a net, I got it on clearance sale, and I think it had a 1/2 inch mesh. I went out and threw it on some croakers and I couldn't get the croakers out of the net. I had to work them out and they were all dead. So I would go with the 3/8 or smaller. All right, now let's get to the best part, which is going out to the beach and throwing this cast net and catching bait. So croakers, for the most part, are going to be right along that little trough, right where the sand drops off. The croakers are going to be just on the outside of that most of the time. So now you're just going to go up to this ledge and you're just going to start blind casting the net. You don't need to look for the croakers because the chances are if you can see the croakers, they also see you. You're going to have a much harder time netting them if they can see you. So what I'll do is I'll walk along the beach and I'll kind of throw the net out in front of me, just on the outside of that little trough. Okay, now let's do some troubleshooting. Let's say that you've been going to the beach, you've been trying this technique, you've been trying to get bait and you're just not having any success. I've had a couple of comments on my other videos about this. What are some things that you can do? So number one, my first suggestion would be to start varying up how far out you throw the net. Like start right where the trough is, just on the outside of that trough. But if you're not catching the bait, You can start throwing the net out deeper. Sometimes they'll be just out deeper. Also, if there are waves, like I talked about how those croakers will shoot up into the sand, try throwing your cast net really shallow, like way up where you would be walking on the beach when the waves wash up. Because sometimes, like I said, they'll be in 2 or 3 inches of water. So vary up the depth of where you're throwing that net. The next thing I would suggest is cover a lot of ground. Just keep walking down the beach. Keep throwing that net until eventually you should find some croakers. Sometimes it can be really tough. I've certainly had frustrating days out there where I haven't been able to get enough bait. You know, we might get 1 or 2 croakers and they get eaten right away. And then we can't replenish the bait, and that can be really frustrating. But just keep walking up and down the beach. Eventually you'll probably hit a pod of croakers that you'll be able to get to. Now, if you've gone out there numerous times and you've just completely struck out on bait, you might need to move to a new beach. Now, that doesn't mean you say you're in Fort Lauderdale, you need to go all the way up to Palm Beach. You might just need to go to the next beach down, you know, a mile or 2 miles up the road, and try there. And just keep using that same technique. This is summertime, this is Florida. You're gonna find those croakers. If you're out there throwing that net enough, you're gonna find croakers. Third piece of advice is use whatever you catch. You don't necessarily have to have a croaker. I've caught a lot of snook on little baby jack crevalles. Snook will also eat lizard fish. Sometimes they'll catch lizard fish in the net. Any little fish that's swimming around in that trough area, that's where the snook are, that's where they're feeding. So they're gonna eat anything that's in there. You know, a lot of people think that snook are really, really picky fish and they're hard to catch, you know, and they're really selective on what they're gonna eat. I haven't really found that to be the case, especially in the summertime when they're spawning like this. Snook will eat just about anything that they can fit in their mouths. So if you're not catching croakers or sand perch, you are catching some other little bait fish, even if you aren't sure what they are, try them out because there's a good chance snook are gonna eat them. All right, so my last bit of advice, I kind of touched on this earlier. If you're not catching any bait with the net, bring a rod that has some small hooks on it, like a sabiki rig, and you can bait that sabiki rig up with little pieces of shrimp. You can throw them out there. Sometimes the bait will be just beyond where you can reach with the cast net, or sometimes it'll be out further. So using the hooks with the shrimp, you know, you can cast it out further and try different depths. And like I said, I do have a tutorial on that very technique, so you will want to check that video out too. All right, so in this video, this is just gonna show you a couple clips of what I did last night. I was out snook fishing and I struck out, didn't catch any snook at all, but it was one of the best nights for bait. Kind of ironic that there were no snook, but I walked up and threw the cast net one time and I hit like the mother load of croakers and sand perch. And then I threw the net a few more times and caught a couple more, but I want you to see what it looks like when you really hit the jackpot on big croakers. So let's check out these clips throwing the net. All right, let's get some bait. Ooh. Feels like I got something. Oh yeah, buddy, look at these. Look at this. Look at this mother load of croakers I just hit. Oh my gosh, I just got snook jackpot. Look at this. Look at this. Literally the first cast. Wait till you see the snook bait that I have here. Come on, buddies. Get out of there. Croaker. 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 2 more croakers. Another croaker. And then a jumbo sand perch. Couldn't have gotten any better snook bait. Like this here, let's try it out. And I feel like I got a bunch of croakers already. Look at that, one throw. I can feel them in there. Yeah, look at this. perfect snook bait. 2 giant croakers. That's exactly what you want. But anyway, there's your perfect snook bait. A large croaker. Hear him croaking? So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you have any questions at all about this technique, leave me some comments because I will respond to all of your questions. Thank you so much for tuning in today. See you next time.